Pay attention. If you think about all of that other in the sense of all this political theater, and that's what it is, it's a distraction, actually. But what's important for humans is to act upon what they can do to be a part of that change for the better. And that is having your voice and using it, and having your vote and using it in those societies where they can. It's not to be passive. Educate yourself, but not becoming embroiled in the drama or the theater.
Sheila Gillette, THEO Group, welcome back on Just Tap In. We haven't spoken since technically last year, 2023, and I know that these conversations are really timeless, but we entered a new year. We are now in 2024, and I was wondering, what has been the most significant change you've witnessed into this new year for your life?
Well, expansion is the word I'd use. This is a year, as we've been told by THEO, but also experiencing a very pivotal, powerful year for all of us. All of us who've chosen to be incarnate now are moving into a higher conscious state. And so there is a momentum in that of us releasing old limiting beliefs that have kept us from living the life we really want to live, or being the person we know we can be. But because of outside situations, circumstances, and conditions, we've created a belief system that we can't. That's simply just untrue. We are worthy. We are all worthy of living the life we love. And so we're moving into releasing those old belief systems that have been passed along for thousands of years, so that the law of attraction, the true manifestations, can come to fruition without any resistance.
And from doing this work 50 plus years, THEO has said a lot of things. He's talked a lot. They have talked a lot. And I'm wondering, because you said that there's a lot of things that THEO has talked about that have come to fruition. And I would love to know, what are some of those things or events or energy shifts that you've seen that THEO talked about, and all of a sudden now we're living it in our daily lives?
Well, in my first book, The Fifth Dimension, Channels to a New Reality, in the prophetic chapter, which was the last chapter, they spoke about what's happening right now on our planet. And that book was released 38 years ago. So they've been talking, and they were talking about it even before. So the chaos that's happening now is all the dissolution of those old patterns I was talking about. So they said, as this new world is being birthed, we'd be a global economic, we'd have global economic structure. Well, we've learned we are a global economy, and what happens in one country affects another. And so there's new organization of that economy that will come to fruition. And there's been a lot of conspiracy about that, but it's for good for all of us, that we are all connected in the world, and new political structures are coming to fruition, even though it seems it is not. But they are, because the people are demanding it. And so we're seeing that. We're witnessing that in the world, that people are standing up and saying, no, this is not working for our species. We need something better. So I see that coming to fruition. You know, when the book, The Fifth Dimension, was released, they said that this transformation would begin in the Baltic states. And the very next year, in 1988, the book was released at the end of 1988. In 1989, the Berlin Wall came down. And Germany is a Baltic state. And now with, fast forward to now, where we're seeing the war from Russia and Ukraine, and all the Baltic states surround that. So the transformation that's happening now, even though the great intensity of it and sadness is all a part of this chaos that will shift and change by the people. And we're beginning to witness. But over the years, for an example, they told me when I started doing this work in 1970s that we would be having these conversations globally. We didn't have home computers then. We didn't have the internet. They said media would be a part of it. Well, here we are. This is media. So these things have come to fruition. Back then I just trusted. Okay. They also told me I'd write a book. I never even imagined myself doing that. And now we've done 3. So it's amazing how just saying yes to life, things will unfold. And so I'm very optimistic because over 5 decades, I have had things told to me that have come to fruition in my personal life, and others I've watched transform and get guidance and have changed their lives as well. So and that I would be a teacher of teachers. And this was early on. And I've taught many people and opened many people up and assisted them in their awakening. Esther Hicks being one of my students that has more notoriety, if you would, more fame, but many others. And that's been such a blessing to be a part of someone's life that makes that kind of difference in the world. So it's been interesting, and small things daily. If we just make an intention daily for something to come to fruition in our life, and then pay attention, you are, and we are, all of us, creating our lives. Our soul is directing us. It's an inside out job, not an outside in job. Life is happening through us, for us, as us, not to us.
And speaking on that process of opening people up, you mentioned it in our last conversation. You had to go through a whole near-death experience to be able to start opening up your channel. But even, when Esther Hicks talked about her experience coming to you in her book, Ask and It Is Given, I remember that it was just a session where THEO said, you can also do what I'm doing. And then she started opening up. So we don't normally have to go through an intense death process to open up our channel. And a lot of people are opening up spontaneously right now. What do you think what is that like right now? And why can people, just by you telling them oh, you can also do this, open them up almost, rapidly afterwards?
Well, it's giving someone permission to use their God-given abilities, and we all have them. And so Esther just leaned in to that belief. And THEO said many other things to her as well, but she said, okay, I'll give it a try. But now so many people are already having their phenomena experiences, if you would. They're already opening, they're hearing guidance. There are many forms. We're all channels creatively. You're channeling what you do. You're getting information that guides you to do these interviews, for an example. We all are an open channel of this creative energy we call our soul. And it's directing us to do the things we do. And why your show is popular, why my work has become popular, why Esther's work is popular, because people are having experiences and they want to know more about what's happening to them. And, when I opened up, people weren't. They didn't even talk about this. They were in small, different areas, curious. But now there's been 5 decades I've watched these waves of awakening. But we're in the 5th dimensionary energy now. So the veils between our multidimensionality is very thin compared to the density of the 3rd dimension. So the 4th has been a spiritual awakening, and now we're fully in the 5th, which allows people to recognize that they're more than just a physical body, but using the physical body as the receiver, the conduit, as some might think, of all that energy, and being able to feel sensorily these experiences that we call psychic or intuitive.
And in our last conversation, we talked about the energetic attunement that you had to go through to be able to merge your energy with that of THEO's. And they explained that our soul frequency always stays the same. That's like unchangeable, unmutable. But what changes is the physical body. So let's dive into a little bit more of that, of what is our soul frequency. And then we talked about the nervous system and how our nervous system shifts. Why are those two? One is changing and one is not. Why is that?
Our soul is eternal. Our soul is bigger than our physical body. We birth into this physical body and we birth into our multidimensionality again when we leave the body. This earth suit is our vehicle for having the earth experiences and to have the sensory perceptivity that I was speaking about. But our soul has a constant vibrational frequency that is our eternal, what I call, and what THEO has termed, soul note. And when you speak, there is a vibrational frequency that is unique only to you. Nobody else has that frequency. That's
through the voice or through the energy?
All of it.
Aura, all of it.
All of it. But where we know it is coming is when we speak to each other. There is that consistent soul vibration. And everything's vibration and frequency. But each and every one of us is unique. We each have our own. And if you talk to musicians and composers, and they could tell you those megahertz and the vibrations and the frequencies that happen. And we can see it if we see it in a recording. And a lot of, like the police and the government, even the army, and all of that, they can use the voice frequency to find somebody. It's more unique than our fingerprints. So it's really interesting as this evolves. We'll know more about it. But THEO told Marcus and I, we were doing a radio show. We've done an internet radio show, but we did a regular terrestrial radio show where you dialed in 1 hour a week to talk to THEO, call in. And we had a lady call in one time, and she asked about her health. We didn't know her. And so THEO said to her, well, we see you're visually impaired. And then went on to talk to her about her back where she was having pain. And that was the extent of it. So we went on next caller. So the next day, this was a Sunday, the next day she called our office and she said, I don't know who you people are, but I called in yesterday. You might remember I'm the woman that Theo said, we see you're visually impaired. She said, well, I'm blind. How do they know that? And so Marcus said to me, how do they know that? And I said, I don't know. So then Marcus asked him, how did you know that? And they said they traveled on the frequency of her soul note, her voice, to connect with her. And that was so interesting. And I believe our thoughts, we just talked to him about this the other day, that our thoughts have that same frequency. Because when we hear our own thoughts, there's a tone, isn't it? We hear our voice in our mind as well. So when we send thoughts, we send that frequency as well. So it's just fascinating to me. See, I told you, 5 decades, I'm still learning. I'm still discovering, because our curiosity brings out more of seeking and understanding, the depth of the understanding.
What came to me with that story is that that's the opening of our throat chakra, of our voice. And it's so weird because I think this is more than 100 episodes now. When I look at the first ones, I started doing this when I was 22. So I guess my throat was already developed and I was already past the puberty, but my voice has changed. The tone of my voice, the way it sounds has changed. And I believe it's because I have been stepping more into expressing my truth. And what I would really hone in for people along that line is sometimes we're afraid to speak up. We're afraid to put our voice out into the world, even if that's through the new technology of social media. That's how we draw our tribe in. If we want to draw people that are with like interests or that resonate with our mission or that can really assist us in this lifetime, if we're not speaking about the things that we love and our truth, how are we going to bring them in? How are we going to draw them in for the highest experience in this lifetime?
That's true. And as you become more comfortable in your skin, you get to that soul note, the depth of it. So you speak more from here than you do from here. And
that definitely feels that way.
To your voice changing is that you've stepped into that truth and you're not nervous about letting the world know about it. And Theo says that our truth is a gift we give the world. We all have a contribution. And we're all creative. So whatever that is that inspires each and every one of us. And to your point earlier about people being able to do this work and use their intuitive gifts, just step into it. You know, it's most people think it's from the outside, but it's from the inside of acceptance. And I've realized that as you do speak the truth, you do drop from the head to the heart in the way you speak. And, you know, I had to learn to be able to speak about this when it wasn't accepted. And it was kind of scary, you know. Somebody said, well, what do you do?
What would you say?
Well, I had to use a language that gave me some insight if they even knew what I was talking about. So I would say to them, oh, I work in metaphysics and parapsychology, which is psychic work. Mm-hmm. And if they knew what those two words meant, then we had a conversation. If they didn't, their eyes would glass over and they would say something else, or, you know, we wouldn't have a conversation. So I always had a way of knowing who was available for a good conversation about this or not. But over the years, I just had to trust and just say, this is who I am. This is what I do. And some people liked it and some people didn't. And it was okay. It was okay.
And what's funny is you're not just Sheila Gillette. I'm not just Emilio Ortiz. The THEO group is talking a lot about this fifth dimensionary energy where the veil is thinning. And that also includes not only this lifetime, but all our multiple lifetimes across a span of our whole soul. And that includes things of the past. And a lot of people are starting to remember a lot of their past lives. I know for you, you remember a lot from your lifetimes in Atlantis. If you want to shed light on what do you remember, what was that like? Super interesting and things right there.
I've been fortunate to have glimpses into lifetimes. Not full-blown movie of what it was, but just
not Matthias De Stefano.
just snapshots that would answer a question about something in this present lifetime. THEO says that soul is like a diamond with many facets. And what gives a diamond its brilliance are the facets when the light shines and the light refracts off the facet. And so it's the Akashic records are like that, and they're in each cell of our body. It's not a library you go to get a book out. We have that multidimensionality within us in our soul's energy. And so if I had a question about something that was happening that I couldn't relate to this time, I would be given a picture, like I said, or just a moment, a snapshot in time, where it gave me the revelation of, oh, that's why. That's what it was. That's why I'm in relationship to this person, or that's why I know this thing about something. Atlantis I knew about. I just knew about the civilization in the sense of very powerful warriors. Egypt is very much in alignment to that civilization as the seed of the civilization. They call it the home. When you go there, I know you've been there, or when we went there, the first thing we got off the plane and met our guides, they said, welcome home. And because it's the home of civilization, it's an amazing country to experience, as you know. But there's just so much that we've had such a myopic view of life and of our world. And that's opening more in this fifth dimension. We took a group to Egypt, and many people that were drawn to go with us had amazing experiences there. And we take trips every year, a spiritual pilgrimage or journey. And last year we went to Peru. Same thing. Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca, the different portals there. People were having amazing experiences. So if we just say yes, we can have those glimpses of other times, other knowings, because again, we're multidimensional beings. We can tap into that in ourselves and get that information. It's not to live in the past. It's just to know that you knew something before, and it's serving you now with the knowledge that you gained then.
So, shall we go full multidimensional and bring in the archangel group, THEO, that dropped a lot of wisdom last episode, and I feel like they're ready to drop even more this time around?
I would love to share THEO with you. As you know, it takes just a few seconds. Here we go. It is the beginning, is it not?
It is.
We are appreciative of the opportunity to serve, you may ask.
Why is the heart the most sacred space of the human being?
It is the seat of the soul. There's a fifth chamber where the soul resides within the heart. And as one lives from the heart to the head, the intellect, is part of your physicality. It's like your computer system. And as it evolves, it is given new systems to work in the sense of knowledge and awareness. And this is a time to expand.
I love that you mentioned the word chamber, because a good friend of mine right now is beginning to make a lot of discoveries, Robert Edward Grant, around the relationship between the Da Vinci painting of the Vitruvian Man and the Great Pyramid of Giza, where each line he's cut into 14 pieces, just like the story of Osiris. And everywhere he's been marked on that painting, we have found a chamber within the Great Pyramid. But there are some that have not been discovered yet. Do you believe that the Great Pyramid has more chambers inside it that we have not found yet, and that we're beginning to uncover now with the new consciousness?
Yes, and there's more pyramids to be discovered as well. And there's that which is seen above the earth, but there's more to be underneath it.
Does the concept of the halls of Amenti sound familiar to you?
We are aware.
Would you be open to describing what that is in your purview?
It's halls, as it is said, to bring about knowledge. There's knowledge there, and when discovered, it would speak to the now, the present.
Who left those halls behind, and why?
There have been previous civilizations, beings that have been on this planet thousands of years ago. The human experience is thousands of years old, tens of thousands. And so more will be discovered as there are these archaeological finds and messages that are left there to understand. When the world is ready for the understanding, let's say.
Out of all these archaeological findings, and would you direct humanity to a certain place on Earth to begin digging for more knowledge that we may be ready for right now?
It is not ours to give, but to be discovered as the world is ready. There will be those who will be inspired to go around the world to different parts of the world for these discoveries.
They'll be divinely guided
Yes.
over to these places.
Correct.
I brought up Leonardo da Vinci, and you've also talked about Nikola Tesla in the past.
Yes.
What were they tapping into exactly with all of these inventions that were flowing through them for maybe not even their current time, but future times as well?
They were a little ahead of their time, were they not? And also, as they brought forth many things, Tesla particularly, there were particular energy companies on the planet that wanted to stop him and did, because they knew that would change how the world used energy. And so the invention, the knowledge that he had, could have been revelatory in the sense of life on the planet, but it was squelched. But now it's coming out. There's hot fusion, his knowledge of cold fusion, for an example, for the planet to be utilized. So these things are being talked about as we speak. But he brought them forth many years ago. But understand this, there are many innovators, scientists, engineers that are being inspired in their thoughts. And know that the mind that is inspired to create is the same mind that can make it happen externally in the world. So you'll see much more innovation coming forward now. For again, the veils are very much thinner between the multidimensional universe, if you would, and the human physical reality. And no, the earth is just one choice. There are billions of choices of incarnation for souls. Billions of choices, the earth being one. But of course, in your world, there are still people who think the earth is flat. So there is a necessity of education and understanding and shifting of beliefs to come to fruition.
And why have we forgotten that we are divine, master, creative beings, as you mentioned?
That was part of the third dimensional reality, the density, if you would. And of course, much about survival. When humans are in survival mode, they're not asking the deeper questions for a greater understanding. They're wanting to live from one day to the next. Yes? So, as you have noticed, the shifts and changes in the last 200 years innovatively, this expansion has accelerated because humans are able to survive more easily now than they had in the past.
Was there an external, perhaps extraterrestrial influence for all of this, of why we forgot all of these capacities and we're beginning to remember them now?
No, it was the capacity of the human existence and the mind not being able to grasp the concepts. For the mind, the intellect, when given information, relies on history, doesn't it? And what is known. If we say chair to you, your mind pictures a chair, not the word. Yes? So animals, and humans are animals, receive information in picture form of what's already known or experienced. And so what has been in this evolution is enough evidence in one's life to know that they're more than their physical body, their brain. The brain is very useful for solving problems and having the body run efficiently. The soul is where the expansion and knowing is.
There's many people that equate the breath with our soul. And when the breath stops, that means that the soul has left the body. Do you see it in a similar way as well?
There's some similarities to it, but the soul gives the brain life. The body can be kept alive, the brain cannot. And so when the soul leaves the body, then the brain is non-functioning. That's why medical professionals often equate death to brain non-functionality. Brain dead. Yes?
Yes. Back to Tesla for a minute, as this question is just flowing through. What happens to a civilization once they harness cold fusion?
It's just a different usage of energy, isn't it? Know that there's much innovation that's happening now, and it's in the highest good of this planet, but you don't hear about it because most discussion that is given to the people is fear-based because it's economically efficient to keep people in fear. But start looking for all the good things that are happening innovatively. Understand this, it's just been a few years since you've had the internet. And look what's happened. Now you carry a computer in your pocket everywhere you go, do you not? And have easy access to the world. And that's just been in the last few linear years. And then, as new as it is, you get very frustrated when it doesn't work because beings are entitled to have that usage. Yes?
Yeah.
It's truly a gift, innovatively, and there are many things happening to better your lives now.
So, as a whole species is brought out of full survival mode, survival state, and full into creatorship, how would that change the economic structure that you talked about?
There will be a good flow because it's a global economy. And as that is very positive, it's good for all on the planet, all species. Yes? And there wouldn't be the hoarding of money because of a fear of not enoughness. There's enough for everybody. But what happens, and necessarily so now, is that you're changing your minds and belief systems around money. There are false beliefs in each and every one of you about money and about being worthy of money. Yes? Limiting beliefs. So as those are changing in consciousness, there will be a flow of lives well lived out of the knowing that you deserve a life well lived.
What is money truly from a energetic perspective or from your perspective?
Money is just an exchange of something that you exchange for goods and services. Yes?
Yes.
It doesn't have any energy except for what people give it, humans give it in their mindset.
Would we be able to function right now as where humanity is in a world without money as we know it now, or will that change as well?
When you speak about money, it's all digital now, isn't it? It's not that often that there is an exchange of physical money as there used to be. That was the only exchange that could happen. So you'll see that evolution. Especially as it is global. Do you not just use your computers for the exchange of money now?
Yes, we do.
Yes. So that's what's happening to money. It's just a form of exchange.
I think we've never been in a moment in time where we've had so much access to information. And I believe that is changing the processing of the human being, and especially the new children that are coming into the world. how do you see education for the future with the new children that are coming onto the planet that are processing, and they have an iPad in their hand since they're 2 years old, and they're getting floods of information? Their brain is working with new neural patterns. How would education need to shift in order to better equip these new children for learning and for knowledge?
That's one of the greater changes that will come, because the educational systems have been antiquated, and not in the service of individual students, but as a collective. Yes? So they'll be given more awareness of how to teach these new students who are quite aware and sophisticated and bright. And so it will have to keep up. Yes, the system itself. But there will be those who are inspired souls who are educators. That's their sole purpose. That's their soul's imprint that will innovate education to meet those who come forward.
And a lot of these children are already coming in with these extrasensory perceptions very much online. And if I look at my perspective, I don't think my school would have been able to support me in opening up my extrasensory perception. How would that in specific of supporting kids who are psychically open, and right now we may see a kid with ADD, and that just means that he's very, very aware psychically and energetically, and we just shut that down. How can we create a system of education and of raising our children for that not to happen, and for our kids not to shut down their gifts, their innate abilities to see beyond this realm?
It's an epidemic, isn't it? Stop labeling them and engage with their intelligence. Know that these labels are to oftentimes medicate, calm down the individual for the comfort of the adults. Yes? And their inability to cope, but it's just a way of communicating, the necessity of communication. And what you can see with these individuals, so that are holding this high frequency, this high energy, that movement is necessary for them to calibrate. So to have a student who has this high frequency running through them, to sit still is an impossibility. So give an outlet to release that energy so that then one can sit.
What are those outlets?
Movement, dance, music. All humans need movement to stay alive properly and efficiently throughout lives, no matter what age. Yes? But now in the system, they take children and make them sit for hours at a time.
I remember.
Yes?
And memorize.
Yes. That does not work. And many of the educational systems are beginning to understand that. And also, there are now adults who have experienced that and know and have ideas and thoughts of how to change the system for the better for all students. And now
is movement necessary?
Yes.
is movement necessary because of the recalibration of the nervous system, or is it something else?
Yes, and circulation in the body, for the body to be very healthy. Yes. Paying attention to nutrition oftentimes will calm the nervous system in these individuals. Paying attention to what goes into the body to calm the nervous system. So all of these things, nutrition, movement, all the good health things, breathing, meditation, learning how to use the body, yes, properly.
In our last conversation, Theo, you talked about reaching these points of higher consciousness, and that we may begin to use our meditations to refine our energy field. I would love to lay out for people exactly what that looks like in a meditation. How can we begin to refine our aura, our electromagnetic energy, in order to reach higher states of consciousness?
So meditation is extremely important daily. It's not only for spirituality. It is good for the nervous system, the body, a complete rest, but quieting the mind. And as you train yourself with meditation, in any situation, you can take a moment and drop into that place of calm because you've trained yourself through meditation to be able to reach that state, which opens the self more intellectually as well. You're learning how to lay new neural pathways out of these old belief systems into a new default system that is more positive, not fear-based. So this is what meditation assists with as well.
Does this lead then to states of samadhi? And are we going to be experiencing more of that as a collective? Something that was normally secluded for only a group of people that would spend their lives reaching that enlightenment. Are we going to be able to see that more and more in our culture?
It's not to be out of your body. Samadhi is by location, the ability to do that. You already have the ability. Each human does. Some people call it out-of-body experience. But the samadhi is when the body is held in a state of being, of paralysis. So the nervous system isn't short-circuited as the soul goes in and out of it. So yes, you could call it remote viewing as well. There are many words you could use. But samadhi was used by the gurus and the masters to do just that, by location.
And for someone asking themselves right now, why would I want to bilocate, leave my body, go out of body? What were these yogis and masters utilizing that ability for? And is there a way that it can be misused in our culture that we should avoid?
No, because it's natural. And you're already doing it with your computers, aren't you?
We are.
They didn't have computers then to check on loved ones or family members or experiences. They needed to leave the body to do that.
Their internal technology that they were tapping into.
Yes, and everyone has it. One is not greater than another. It's all about belief. And that's the shift of consciousness that's happening because you're changing your mind's belief systems that have been passed along generationally and societally for thousands of years. And now in this higher frequency of the fifth dimension, those don't work. Those beliefs that are limiting you can be changed. Experiences that you've had that created the beliefs or adopted at that time, they don't change. That's history. What changes is perception about the experience and about who you are for having it. It doesn't have to limit you, it can empower you by just changing the lenses through which you see it.
And how will that change our perception of time and our relationship to time? Because I know that you operate outside of time.
We do.
And we are in this linear experience of time where we may feel very attached to our concept of clocks, calendars, what we talked about in our last conversation. How does our perception of time change in this new dimensionary energy?
As you experience it differently. But time, as you know it in a linear sense, is a construct that was created so that you have clocks and calendars to navigate your day and your night. Because before you had light in your homes and buildings, you had night and day. Yes? Yes, there were fires, but for the most part, you slept in the dark and did your activity in the day. Yes?
Yes.
Now, you can do your activity 24 hours a day, if you so choose, because you have light to shine and show the way. So how do you navigate the construct now? It is by choice. Yes? You make appointments, you have a calendar. All of these things are there to just assist you. But if you didn't have a clock, you'd know what time it is anyway, intuitively. And you have you not?
Yeah.
Everybody has evidence of that internal clock, internal knowing about time itself in the navigation of it.
You've said before that the sciences and the arts will bring us together, not politics. And I guess in the coming months, we'll be seeing more political shifts, changes upcoming. How can we not get distracted by that and instead utilize the arts and the sciences to unite humanity?
Pay attention. If you think about all of that other in the sense of all this political theater, and that's what it is. It's a distraction, actually. But what's important for humans is to act upon what they can do to be a part of that change for the better. And that is having your voice and using it. And having your vote and using it in those societies where they can. It's not to be passive. Educate yourself, but not becoming embroiled in the drama or the theater.
How may we begin to harmonize with our soul note?
Meditation. What you can do is listen on the inner. Your soul always will speak to you.
Has humanity opened a new timeline for itself with our recent actions, with our recent collective changes? Are we headed toward a new timeline?
There's always a new timeline. But what you're asking about is humanity going to live and continue, or you not?
Yes.
And yes, the earth is going to survive quite well. And no, there will be other lifetimes you may choose to incarnate on this planet. It will be here a long time.
Do you perceive Earth as a living, sentient being? How do you perceive or feel Earth's energy, our home? How do you perceive it?
It's beautiful, isn't it? There's great beauty, and you can see that, yes, it's a living planet. All you need to do is go outside. Yes. For there's great life and rejuvenation and regeneration that happens on this planet. That's why humans enjoy it and choose it, because it is a choice. It's not demanded of you to incarnate. Your soul chooses to do so.
What is the role of symbols in our ancient history? And there's so many symbols that will continue to come across in our culture, like the cross, the Vesica Pisces. What is the meaning behind using these symbols, and have they been distorted in any way throughout time?
Everything's been distorted throughout time. To those who wish to be empowered, they distort them to be something or a message for themselves to be empowered. But there is sacred geometry. There is sacred symbols that have come forth through different civilizations, that because of their geometrics and their mathematics have a power of frequency to them. And more will be discovered. Just as a language, you might say, of civilization.
Are we creating a new language?
You are, yes.
You've said in the past that, well, you've said, I'm not going to say past or future, but you've said that if you could see yourselves as we see you, there would be no discontent. There would be only love. How do you see us exactly? How would you describe that feeling?
In this time, you are, by choice, recognizing that unconditional love is a state of being. It's not a feeling. It's a state of peace and awareness inside, some might call enlightenment. And that's what's evolving now. A recognition of that state of being by releasing and changing the beliefs we've spoken of. And when you love yourselves enough, you'll have that state. You'll have peace on your planet, and you'll treat each other appropriately.
And how do we know we're worthy of that unconditional love?
The belief that you are not is what you're changing. And those are beliefs that have been adopted outside yourself, truly by situations, circumstances, and conditions. And as you realize where those beliefs first began, in those moments, the revelation of that allows you not to change the event. Again, we said that's your history, but to change the perception of your self-worth and self-love, and loving the self forward to the present from that moment in time where that belief that you were not worthy first began. You rewrite the script.
That is what you call the soul integration process?
Yes.
Are there other factors to this process that we should know about?
Not really. It's very simple. as most things are. It's the intellect that likes to solve problems, so creates issues and problems and complexities.
And the heart doesn't create problems, right?
It does not.
What emotions do you foresee that humanity will be stepping more into in the coming years, in the future, as we leave behind the old energies and the old thought patterns and belief structures?
So, what emotions will be felt, or all of them, without fear? For now, humans take for granted the good emotions and avoid uncomfortable ones. So, what will be happening is that realizing they're all important, but the uncomfortable ones only last a few seconds. Truly, in your body, there's a visceral experience, which is the feeling. The emotion is the result of the feeling. Yes? And if you're avoiding a particular feeling, that comes out in other ways, and most often as anxiety. So, what will be seen as there's a pandemic of anxiety now in humans, as ones embrace all of the emotions, and they don't have to be destructive, they're informative. As they are embraced, that feeling of anxiety that is an umbrella of experience of resistance. And that diminishes.
There's a concept in psychology that we know of as trauma bonding. And essentially, it is when a person gets linked to another person because of a past trauma, because of a negative emotion that they're feeling, that this person then reaffirms. And you've spoken so much about relationships, and you're giving a lot of mentorships on relationships. How are relationships changing now as we begin to cultivate more of that self-love, understanding and healing our past trauma wounds? What do relationships then look like for humans without this negative or trauma energy?
The ability to be in your truth and share that love and authenticity with another without needing to have a facade, a protection, barriers between you. You can be in your truth.
Will these relationships still create karma, or do you view karma as a factor in this?
Karma is not a debt to be paid, as many think. It's only an opportunity of growth. So, will that change? Yes.
Do you believe in soulmates?
Not the romanticized version, yes. Most think in terms of this, but soulmates or soul family, yes, they can be loving primary relationships, but they are also beings that are on the same vibrational frequencies, soul intentional connectivity. And truly, if you think about the thousands of people you cross paths with in a lifetime, how many are you truly attracted to?
The ones whose soul note we recognize or we resonate with.
Yes. And in that, you've chosen to be incarnate at the same time for the gift you give each other, whatever that might be. Could be very challenging or not. Some of the strongest soulmates are the greater challengers, for they bring you opportunity of great growth. The Dalai Lama calls them your sacred friends.
The sacred friends.
Yes.
And why do you encourage people to share their gifts with the world?
Because that allows for a life well lived, a further expression of the energy, the gift of your soul vibrating as you so intend in any incarnation to make a difference. Each and every one of you, even as a small child, had the sense you were here for something important. And you are.
Are the gifts encoded in the soul note? And how may we uncover them?
Yes, and all you need to do is give yourself some thinking time, inspiration time, idea time.
Just tap in.
Yes.
One of the last questions I have for you, Theo, today is, how do we generate miracles by tuning into the quantum field?
Make a decision. And one must define miracle. Yes, for one, someone thinking they have a miracle wouldn't necessarily be one for someone else. But the miracle is the manifestation that you desire, isn't it? So that does not happen until you make a decision for something. You can have all the good thoughts. Yes, they're like wishes, aren't they? Until you decide, I am the man, I am the woman who is, has, does. So decision and belief are the two keys for the miracles you want.
And then what role does action play into all of that? Is that a secondary process?
It is, and it's necessary. And as it's unfolding, the quantum field or the universal energy is always working for you. It's being mindful of what you think about and how you speak. For you have what you have because of how you speak and think. The quantum field is always bringing you that. So be mindful, knowing that it's always working for you. And indecision is a decision in itself, isn't it? So decide for life, decide for what you want, and allow that energy to align with that decision and believe you deserve it. Open the door. And then just pay attention and take action as opportunity presents.
So if the quantum field always works in our favor, we're the ones that work against it when we don't watch what we think and what we speak.
Correct. You may say, I want to win the lottery. Yes. And then the next thought is, it's okay if I don't. And because that second thought is the active thought, you just negated the first decision, didn't you? And that comes from a belief of undeservability.
Theo, is there any pressing issue that you would like to address for humanity before we end our conversation?
We would encourage you to find that state of unconditional love of self and see it in others.
And finally, what are you most grateful for right now?
The opportunity to speak to all who have ears to hear.
Thank you, Theo. Until next time. Appreciate you so much.
God's love unto you. Good day.
Good day.
Hi, Emilio.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
That was interesting. That was a rabbit hole in and of itself.
Good.
Yeah. We're gonna have to be unwrapping a lot of that. We covered a lot. I don't know if you remember any of the topics that we touched.
I don't, but when I listen to this recorded, it'll jar my memory. It'll be, oh yeah, I remember. I know that.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. A lot of people right now that just witnessed that, or they're, seeing Theo's work and the work of other channelers, which is becoming more popular now. They're thinking, oh, I want to be a channel as well. And you've said that they don't realize that they are already in whatever gift, they are already channeling in whatever gifts that they have that they're bringing forth to the world. So how would you address that for someone that is feeling lack of, I don't do that. I can't speak like Sheila does with Theo. Like, how would you address that?
So just pay attention of how you learn is the way you'll receive your messages from the guidance that is always with you. And so if you're a visual learner, if you learn best by visual experiences, reading or seeing something, you'll receive visually dreams, visions. If you're an auditory learner, you'll hear something, either externally or in our inner mind hearing, you'll hear a message. And that just recognize where you receive information from and how you learn. You have all access to all your sensory perceptions, everything in your body. But how it typically happens for everyone, because it has to be psychologically, emotionally comfortable for you to receive it, is how you learn best, how you take in information. So just pay attention to that first and foremost, and then make a decision for it. Ask for it. In the asking, it's given. They're just waiting for you to ask to be able to support.
Yeah. And would you give people any sort of warning sign? Because I know when Theo first came through to you, it was like it dropped into your whole body with like all this pressure, and then gradually they started merging their energy. So would you warn people, like, it might feel weird or it might feel uncomfortable at first? What was it like for you?
Yes, and I just was confident because I'd asked God for a job. So I felt like, oh, here it is, But I had a lot of phenomena happening to me and through me, around me. But that was happening because I needed that, obviously, to trust it, to know I wasn't making it up. That's a common thing that people think, oh, I'm just making this up. But then I had this stuff I knew I couldn't have made up happening to me and through me. And it happened fast. But I didn't know anybody that was doing what I was doing. There wasn't anybody I could go online with and see what was happening and go, oh, that's what's happening to me. There just wasn't that. And that's why I've enjoyed doing programs and encouraging people to open up, because I didn't have a mentor like that, except for Theo. And they taught me as I went along. But now so many people are opening up And I would just encourage people to try it. Just try it. And it doesn't have to be off-putting. It's usually from beliefs of something's going to take me over, something frightening is going to happen. And just know you have the power. Each and every one of us has the power of no, I'm not doing this, or no, I don't want this information, or yes, I do. But Spirit will always honor your free will. Always. Nothing can happen to you without your permission.
Is there a moment now, after 50 years of doing this, where you still doubt yourself, where you still doubt the information that's coming through, or is that completely gone now?
No, I don't doubt the information. No, I've had too much experience, too much evidence in my life. I totally trust. But of course, everybody goes through that. And just watch what happens in your life. It'll let you know if you're out on the right track. And discernment is important when you're looking for teachers. Does it uplift you? Is it loving? Does it empower you to be all you can be? That's what I would look for.
What was it about Edgar Cayce's book that you found that made you discern that, I'm not the only person that this is happening to? What about that book or his work resonated?
The description of how it was happening to him. I was laying down and when I, a direct voice started coming through. So it was describing what I was experiencing. And I went, oh man, this is what's happening to me. But of course, I didn't have him to talk to because he had passed.
Get him on the podcast real quick. Wow. And gradually, when did the opening of the eyes occur for you?
Oh gosh, many years later. I was laying down for years in doing the sessions laying down like Edgar Cayce did. And then I was in New York. My assistant that was working with me was there with me, and I was doing private sessions for people. And I got bronchitis, and I kept coughing. And laying down, it was hard to breathe because I had that congestion. And so my assistant said to THEO, what can we do to help Sheila? And they said, well, tell her to sit up. I was like, oh, I can do that. So then I was sitting up and eyes closed and that way for years until my husband Marcus and I were doing an event in, where were we? St. Louis, Missouri. Asheville. And they opened my eyes and started moving my hands a lot. They'd started moving my hands before that, but much more. They opened my eyes. And then 2 weeks later, they stood me up. And I stood so still in that place. They hadn't started moving me yet because that was just the next process of them taking over the entire body. My feet would go to sleep. That's how still. Wow. But I'd be standing, and I told Marcus, I said, I'm really worried I'm going to fall, because, my feet. And then they started walking around, and now they touch people.
It was like children learning how to walk and be in human bodies.
And it was kind of scary because I didn't have control. I'm over here and all this stuff's happening through my body, and it's like weird, just weird. Huh. It's hard, as I talk about it, people will go, oh, unless they've had the experience. Once you've had an experience and you can relate. But if you haven't, it's like, wow, that sounds awful. And in a moment, it's just the evolution of it. And as I allowed more of that energy into my body, as I trusted more, of course. But they also taught me how to take care of my body so I didn't short circuit. I burned out a couple of times by doing too much, but they've worked on my energy field to blend with their vibration for all these years. There have been upgrades all along. That's the
because
best way to describe it. I'm sorry?
from my understanding, Theo has never been incarnated in a physical body, but they get to have that experience through you, in a way. So when you're channeling, are they literally like feeling what it's like to be in a physical body, and like they're having that experience?
That's what they say. Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating. Well, I can imagine that a lot of people will be able to relate to that experience as the frequency on Earth is shifting, and I encourage them to tell their story, even in the comment section, if they want to just tell us about what they experience, so others can begin to relate as well, and create that community and create that permission slip, which you are that. And Sheila, these sets of conversations have been getting better and better and better and better. And I would love to ask you where people can find you. We end every show with the final trio like we did last time, but where would you send people right now to connect with your work? Any upcoming projects that you'd like to share with us? Where should they go?
I appreciate that. The best place to go is the website, asktheo.com. And we have everything on the website that people can look into, all our mentoring programs and all our meditations and our memberships. And we have a lot there. So I would encourage everybody, if you're interested, to go check out the website, asktheo.com.
Beautiful. And we'll link all of that, as you know, in the show notes, where you can go and connect with Sheila and Theo. And now for the final trio. So we were going to do the time capsule question again at the end, but we already did that twice, one with Theo, one with you. And this one just came to me as we were speaking for like the theme of this episode, which we talked a lot about our soul note. So it's kind of a fun question of, if your soul note, the one that you've been playing throughout lifetimes, had the name of a song, it could be an already thought of song or a new title that you'd like to give it to, what would be the name of your soul note?
There's only love.
Amazing. And what's one belief that the entirety of humanity could adopt that would shift us to our highest timeline?
That you are worthy. That you are worthy of everything. All good things. Worthy. Yeah.
And as we know, Theo always signs off with God's love onto you. Mm-hmm. So when do you feel the most of God's love onto you?
I would have to say I feel it all the time. It's there all the time. But I have to remember that it is. So daily I have gratitude for that feeling. So it's a gratitude practice. Gratitude for something I have in my life or someone or all of that. And actually, Theo inspires us to, in the morning, think of one thing we're grateful for and one thing we're proud of ourselves for before we get out of bed. And so I've been a good student. I practice that. And it changes us to do so.
Well, Sheila, I am proud of myself for connecting with beautiful minds like you and having the courage to have these conversations that in the grander scheme of things are still a little bit renegade and a little bit against the grain, but I honor both of our courage to be here right now and connect in this way, making waves amongst both of our generations and really building a bridge. So I always love to collaborate with you, and I have a feeling that we'll just continue. This is just volume 2. How many more can we go? How many more can we go? How does it get better than this? Sheila, so much love, and I appreciate you from the heart. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love you right back, and thank you for the opportunity to share. Look forward to the next
Always.
time.
Me too.
Okay.